This week on Let's Talk About Mental Health, I'm talking about opinions. How opinions can have a positive or negative impact on your mental health. So let's get talking. This is Let's Talk About Mental Health, a weekly podcast about mental health and well-being, hosted by Jeremy Godwin. Let's talk about mental health, because the more we talk about it, the easier it gets. Hello and welcome to episode 21 of Let's Talk About Mental Health, the weekly podcast about improving your mental health and well-being. I'm Jeremy Godwin. Thank you very much for joining me. This week's episode is Let's Talk About Opinions. I'll be talking about how opinions, both our own and other people's, can impact on our mental health, and how you can make choices that have a positive impact on your well-being and other people's well-being. So let's talk. Opinions. Everybody's got one, and a lot of people think that theirs are the only ones that matter. Which is fine, and each to their own. However, there's a huge difference between constructive opinions versus destructive opinions. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the negative effects of destructive opinions alongside the positive effects of constructive opinions. A lot of this should probably seem like common sense. However, if you just take a few minutes to flick through social media, and especially if you see the comments section on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you'll quickly realize that it's become second nature for a lot of people to just spout off whatever comes to mind without thinking through the impact of their words or the consequences of their actions. I'm constantly advocating in every single episode that if you want to look after your mental health and well-being, then you need to be focused on putting kindness and compassion out into the world, because what you put out comes back to you. So you can probably guess that one of my main points this week is that if you engage in this sort of behavior, you are not only causing damage to other people, you're also causing damage to yourself. Because people who are satisfied with their lives don't attack other people. I'll talk some more about this in a minute, but first, let's talk about some definitions of opinions and how it relates to mental health and well-being. An opinion is a viewpoint, but more than that, it's a judgment of something or someone as being good or bad, valid or invalid, worthy or unworthy. Opinions aren't necessarily based on fact or evidence. Instead, more often than not, they're based on emotion. Everything I do and say in this podcast every week is ultimately a matter of opinion. Yes, I share content which is built around solid research and what I've learned through my formal education, but it's all filtered through a lens of how I perceive the world. In other words, my values and beliefs. And that's the thing about opinions. They're always going to be strongly associated with what you believe and what you don't believe. And it can be a real struggle to challenge and change our long-held belief systems, but sometimes that's necessary because it forces us to grow. There are 6 main types of opinions. There's positive opinions that we have of ourselves and negative opinions that we have of ourselves. There are positive opinions that we have of others and negative opinions that we have of others. And then there's positive opinions that other people have of us and negative opinions that other people have of us. Now, each type of opinion can have a direct impact on your mental health and well-being. What you think about yourself, the good and the bad, can either serve to lift your self-esteem or drag it down. And I know from personal experience that when you're struggling with major mental health issues like depression or anxiety, or quite commonly, both at the same time, it can be hard to push past all of the negative thoughts that you have of yourself, which can lead to a downward spiral of low confidence and fading self-belief. Then there's the opinions that we have of other people. If you think that you don't judge other people, even on a subconscious level, you're wrong. We do it all the time. When someone drives like an idiot on the road, I judge them. When someone walks into me in the supermarket because they're too busy looking at their phone, I judge them. Here's the thing though, what you do next with that judgment is where the constructive or destructive comes in. If you externalize it, in other words, you say something or you post something online, you're putting negativity out into the world based on assumptions. You never know what that person is going through. They might be driving like a maniac because they're rushing to get to a sick loved one. Or they might be focused on their phone in the supermarket because they just received some important news. If you choose to respond to the initial judgment with kindness and compassion, letting it go instead of reacting, then you are creating a very different set of outcomes than if you were to go into attack mode. And I'll come back to that in a few minutes. The third type of opinions are the ones that other people have of us. Just like I form a judgment or perspective based on my views and beliefs, so too are other people when you interact with them. The difference is that when it comes to your own opinions, you are completely in control. But with other people's opinions, the only control you have is over what you do with those opinions. And again, I'll get into that in a lot more detail shortly. Let's first talk about the impact of opinions. Opinions are highly personal, and we are never going to agree with one another 100% of the time. I mean, that is the very definition of individuality, because we are all unique with our own individual perspectives on practically every single subject under the sun. Even those of you who listen to or read Let's Talk About Mental Health aren't going to agree with me 100% of the time, and that is totally fine. It's okay to disagree with me, and I can't force you to agree, just like nobody can force me to agree with them if I don't agree. Where we run into problems, though, is when we insist on sharing our opinion with others when it is steeped in negativity or where it's based on incorrect assumptions, misinformation, or our own prejudices or narrow-minded beliefs. Or when we put too much focus on other people's perspectives and allow negative, destructive opinions to influence us or take away our satisfaction. Here's a sort of funny story to illustrate my point. A couple of weeks ago, I had just been talking about opinions with someone, and I mentioned that Dita Von Teese quote, the one that goes, "You can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be somebody who hates peaches." And then not even 24 hours after I said that, I had someone leave a really nasty message on Instagram criticizing me for being unqualified, a snake oil salesman, and trying to make money out of mental health in a really aggressive manner without taking the time to actually see what my background or qualifications are. Anyway, I'm a professional, and as much as I knew that it had nothing to do with me, I'm also not going to let someone attack me without at least calmly clarifying my position and giving the person an opportunity to dial back their misplaced anger and nastiness. I replied politely and said that I agreed broadly with her point. However, I do have a degree in psychology and sociology, and that I'm currently doing postgrad studies in the field as well. But that she raised valid points about people trying to make money off mental health without having any actual qualifications or skills, and that I wished her all the best. So, how do you think that went down? If you guessed like a lead balloon, you would be absolutely right. She replied back the next day calling me egotistical for listing my qualifications, etc., which was all pretty ironic considering that her initial message was accusing me of being unqualified, and I just let it be water off a duck's back. I deleted her comments and I blocked her. Because there is just no point arguing with people who are determined to lash out at others in an aggressive and hateful way. That stuff has absolutely nothing to do with you. It is 100% about the other person. People who are satisfied with their lives don't go looking for fights. People who are satisfied with the person they are don't attack other people for no valid reason. Look, I know that Let's Talk About Mental Health isn't going to be for everyone, and that's okay. I guess what I'm trying to say here is we all have a choice when we don't like something or agree with it. We can either attack and be nasty, or we can be mature and let it go, because we know that we don't have to like everything, and we also don't have to comment on everything that we don't like. Just because you have an opinion, that doesn't mean that the rest of the world needs to hear it. I've told you all before how utterly obsessed I am with RuPaul's Drag Race, and each season there seems to be at least one or two contestants who get absolutely torn to shreds by some members of the audience on social media, and I think it's completely unfair. I know that for me, there was a contestant last year who absolutely rubbed me the wrong way, but I'm an adult, and so rather than attacking them online, I simply choose to acknowledge that that person is just not for me, and that's it. Be done with it. I don't know how it happened, but we seem to now live in a world where people think that it's perfectly acceptable to be vile and nasty to one another online just because they can. Because social media is there and they can use it as a tool to attack people and therefore either intentionally or unintentionally spread negativity. It's no wonder that we live in a world where more and more people talk openly about feeling depressed and anxious. Because on one hand, we're more connected than ever before. But on the other hand, we're using tools like social media to spread hatred. It has to stop. And as Gandhi said, for things to change, first I must change. So I am saying that every single one of us needs to be conscious of what we're putting out into the world when we share our opinions. Negativity will create more negativity and will attract negativity back to you. Whereas positivity will attract more positivity back to you. I find it kind of funny. I come up with these topics weeks and weeks in advance, and it often seems that things happen between the time of me coming up with the idea and writing and recording the episode that are all related to that particular topic. And maybe it's just because I'm more focused on it and more aware of it, but it's ironic timing. This topic in particular started with a lot of the stuff that was happening in the media with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. There was a huge amount of negativity. I mean, first, they were relentlessly attacked in the press, pretty much since they got together, and not just in Britain, but elsewhere. And a lot of it was thinly veiled hatred for Meghan based on her race, her past career choices, previous marital status. I mean, there was even a photo that was dug up of her as a young woman on holiday in London, posing with a friend out the front of Buckingham Palace. And the media positioned that as though she'd been somehow maneuvering herself for years to marry into the royal family, instead of just doing what every tourist does on their first trip to London and posing outside a famous landmark. Whether you like Meghan, Harry, both of them, whether you like them or not is irrelevant. The vicious commentary surrounding them was never ending. And it was almost as though she was some sort of witch who people believed she had cast a spell over Harry and forced him to fall in love with her. Then recently, when the two of them decided that they wanted a different path in life, that they wanted to do what was right for them and their son, all hell broke loose. Look, I don't care whether you like the royal family or not, and I don't care whether you like Harry or Meghan or not. That's your personal opinion. But at the end of the day, they're human beings, and they have the right to choose their own destinies. I mean, I for one say good on them for the decision that they made, because we all need to focus on what's right for us, not on the opinions of others. Opinions are just noise. If you let your life be controlled by the opinions of others, you will never grow, and you will never find satisfaction, because it is absolutely impossible to please all of the people all of the time. Some people use opinions to try to control others, which is bullshit. If you're not harming anyone, including yourself, then do what you like. We've had far too many times throughout human history where people have been hunted and persecuted for their beliefs and just for being themselves. And to be honest, you think that we would have learned by now, but we haven't. It's not like any of that's ended. Today, the flaming torches of the angry villagers have been replaced by keyboard warriors on social media, who often hide behind anonymous profiles and take great joy and pleasure in attacking as many people as they can. There comes a point where each of us must make a choice. Engage or don't engage. If you want to look after your mental health and to put positivity out into the world, then you have to choose to look after your mental health and put positivity out into the world. When we choose to put our opinions out, what we're trying to do is have people either agree with us or notice us. Trying to get people to agree with us is wasted energy. You don't have to be right all the time, and you're probably not anyway. And even if you are in the right, does it really matter? I mean, look, don't just give up on making any contribution to society at all, because we'd be back in the dark ages if we all did that. But also, don't waste your time arguing with people who cannot see reason because they're hung up on their own hatred and general unpleasantness. The reality is that there are some people, especially on social media, who just want attention. And that's why people so often attack soft targets like celebrities online, to be noticed. I mean, there's many people who have made a whole career out of being malicious towards other people, most of whom seem to do it to deflect attention from their own not-so-great characteristics. When we share negative opinions either online or in the real world, even if it's just supposedly as a bit of fun or indulging in a bit of gossip or making a joke, horrible things can happen to people. I just did a feature the other week in issue 19 of the Mental Health Talk newsletter about the tragic passing of Caroline Flack in the UK. If you're not aware of the case, basically she's a high-profile presenter on television who died by suicide as a result of pretty much trial by media and trial by social media, both of which are completely unfair and completely wrong. We had a similar situation in Australia back in 2014 when Charlotte Dawson, a well-known television personality here, when she died by suicide following ongoing issues with cyberbullying. And I just don't understand what the satisfaction is that people gain from attacking other people. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I would feel sick to my stomach to know that I had made someone even slightly miserable, let alone miserable like that. People are people. I don't care how much money you have in the bank, what you do for a living, how well known you are. Stop treating other people like shit, both online and in the real world. And if you think that one person can't make a difference, you are wrong. Every single person who chooses to pursue positive actions instead of spreading hatred will make a difference. Because when you refuse to engage with people who try to attack, the more you will spread positivity. So here is the main point of this week's episode. When you put positive energy out into the world and deflect negativity, you will find your overall mental health and well-being improves because you are focusing on the positive. And what you focus on grows. So how do you do that? Well, let's talk about the different types of opinions. First, let's start with you. The next time you think something negative about yourself, acknowledge the thought and either turn it around into a positive or choose to let it go. And make a point to spend at least a few minutes every day consciously focusing on the positives in your life. Daily gratitude practice can work wonders for reminding you of all of the wonderful things in your life and getting you to focus on the positive instead of the negative. So choose to be kind to yourself. The next time that you have a strong opinion about someone on reality television or who is in the public eye or an acquaintance, stop and think before you do, say, or post anything. Ask yourself, what value will putting your opinion out into the world have? Will you be adding negativity, spite, nastiness to the world? Or will you be adding positivity, kindness, and compassion? As my grandmother always said, if you have nothing good to say, then say nothing at all. And if you apply that philosophy, along with the old two wrongs don't make a right, you will be streets ahead of the people who haven't woken up yet to the reality of just how much our words and actions serve to shape the world around us. As Paulo Coelho said, the world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. And the next time someone attacks you or writes an argumentative or nasty comment on a social media account about a topic that you feel strongly about, do not engage. Every action that you choose creates a chain reaction of either positivity or negativity, so make choices that are focused on kindness, understanding, and compassion, because you can always choose to be the bigger person. Like I said before, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Look, I'm not saying that we should all just bury our heads in the sand and stop calling out injustice when it happens, for example. Far from it. But we crossed a line a while ago, and now a lot of people feel it necessary to share every negative opinion that they have, every reaction that they have to a story or to a post. And it results in people attacking one another, especially on social media. Stop it. We are better than this. When it comes to opinions, reduce negativity, increase positivity, because what you put out comes back to you. I also want to make a special mention of particular people and publications who make a living out of sharing their hateful opinions and drumming up scandals and drama. Because for each of you listening, if you consume that sort of media, then you are part of the problem. Matt Haig, the author of the brilliant book Reasons to Stay Alive, has been talking about this a lot on social media lately, especially since the passing of Caroline Flack. And it's something that I've been saying for a while now. Stop buying these publications. Stop watching programs that are presented by egomaniacs whose sole job it is in life is to rip people to shreds for the public's amusement. If you don't want to be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Because nothing changes if nothing changes. So this week I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on the how-to section because my opinion is that aside from those 3 points that I've just covered, the rest of it should be pretty obvious. There are 5 simple steps to follow when it comes to opinions. Step 1, have an opinion. Step 2, identify if it's constructive or destructive. Step 3, if it's destructive, either let it go or keep it to yourself. If it's constructive, share it. So if you see something online that you don't like, remember, you don't need to comment on it. If you see something that you do like and you have a kind, encouraging, and constructive comment to make, feel free to express it. Step 4. If someone is sharing an opinion that is weighed down by hatred, discrimination, bullying, and vilification, do not be part of it. Instead, choose to walk away. And certainly don't try to fight fire with fire, because 2 wrongs don't make a right. Stop giving these people an audience, otherwise you're feeding the flames. And step 5, there are no more steps. End of discussion. One thing I will say though, when in doubt, hit the block button, either online or in real life. Don't waste your time getting into arguments with people who haven't worked out that they're a big part of the problem. My policy is to give one attempt to engage in a positive manner because, like I've said before, I don't believe in cancel culture. And I think that there can be a fine line between misunderstanding versus intentional nastiness. So until I work out whether or not you're being nasty on purpose, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. After all, John and Yoko did suggest that we should all give peace a chance. But if you come back at me with nastiness, we're done. Don't choose to be part of the problem. Choose to be part of the solution by choosing words and actions that are kind and fair and considerate. And let everything else be water off a duck's back. Like RuPaul says all the time, unless they're paying your bills, pay them no mind. And there's also the other one he says, which is my favourite. What other people think of me is none of my business. I mean, you're never going to be everybody's cup of tea. And besides that, people form an opinion about you, which is based off a very small part of your overall personality, combined with their own perspectives, prejudices, and beliefs. So if you tried to satisfy all 7.8 billion people on this planet, you would find it an impossible task. Just do what you do. Do it with kindness and compassion, and make choices that are focused on positivity above all else, and you will attract more and more positivity into your life. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes work, and it most certainly takes a thick skin and a willingness to persevere, because there are some really nasty people out there who will try to bring you down to their level. But you have the choice. And your choices are where your strength and your power can be found, one step at a time, one day at a time. What it all boils down to is this. Opinions are highly personal, and we are responsible for the decisions that we make about whether or not to share our opinions. If you put out negativity, then that is what will come back to you. Whereas if you choose to only put out positivity, then you will find that you experience the world in a much more positive way. Treat people the way that you would like to be treated, and make choices that are fair, kind, balanced, and informed. Like Confucius said, never do to others what you would not like them to do to you. If every single one of us made a choice to do that every day, we would see the beginning of a very different world. In the meantime, even just one small change can make a difference, so be conscious of what you're putting out. So that's it for our chat about opinions and mental health. To wrap up this episode, here are a few points to consider. Number 1. You and only you are in direct control of your words, actions, and feelings. What you say and do are up to you. So choose to be constructive when dealing with other people, but also when thinking about yourself. Number 2. What other people think of you has nothing to do with you. If they like and support you, great. But if they don't, then it's not personal, even if it feels that way. Move on and find the people who do get what you're about. And number 3. If you put negativity out into the world, then you're part of the problem. So choose to put out positivity, kindness, and compassion, and do your part to change things for the better. As always, I'm going to close out with a quote that I'd like to encourage you to reflect on and consider what it means for you. This week's quote is from Mother Teresa, and it is, "Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless." Let me repeat that. Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. Alright, so, to summarise, everybody is entitled to their opinions, but when your opinions are destructive, either to yourself or other people, then you've crossed a line. You're responsible for what you put out into the world, by way of how you treat yourself and how you treat other people. So choose to speak and act in ways that are grounded in kindness, compassion, and understanding. As you focus on letting go of negativity around you and within you, and instead focus on bringing more positivity into your life, you will find that your overall mental health and well-being will improve. Because, to paraphrase what I said earlier in the episode, people who are satisfied with their lives have no need to attack themselves, to attack other people, or to allow themselves to be attacked. Because people who are satisfied with their lives are too busy being positive and living a life that feels genuinely fulfilling. I hope that this week's episode gave you some useful and practical advice on the subject of opinions and mental health. Before I wrap up today, if you're looking to work with someone on improving your overall well-being or addressing specific challenges, then I offer coaching services to clients anywhere in the world via video conference. Take a look at the coaching page on the website at letstalkaboutmentalhealth.com.au/coaching. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell someone that you know about it, because word of mouth is a great way to help new people find the show. Or take a moment to leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform. Next week's episode will be regrets. I'll be talking about why we have regrets, how they can impact on our mental health, and how to work through your regrets so that you can get past them for the sake of your well-being. I hope you'll join me for that episode, which will be released on Monday morning Australian time. On Friday, I'll be sending out the next issue of the Mental Health Talk newsletter, which is a weekly roundup of articles and resources that are focused on good mental health and well-being. You can find that and past episodes of Let's Talk About Mental Health at the website, which is letstalkaboutmentalhealth.com.au. That's letstalkaboutmentalhealth.com.au. And you can also sign up there to have new posts delivered to your inbox. You can also find Let's Talk About Mental Health on social media. I post extra content daily on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at LTAMHofficial. That's LTAMHofficial. I also post a daily The Simple Truth Is series on my other account, which is Jeremy Godwin Official. That's Jeremy Godwin Official. Have an absolutely fantastic week. Look after yourself, and as always, make a conscious effort to put kindness out into the world, because what you put out comes back to you. Take care, and talk to you next time.